Nobody told you to open that tab at 2 a.m. There was no financial advisor sitting across from you, no parent who laid out a master blueprint, and no university course that explained what actually happens when you realize you've lost a full decade of compounding interest. You came to it, the way most people in their mid-20s discover their biggest wake-up calls, sideways, by accident, from a screenshot or a video that bothered you just enough to make you open a calculator. You are 26 years old. You are looking at a post online about an 18-year-old who just automated their first broad market index fund. You look at your own bank account, a modest checking account with just enough cushion to cover next month's rent. A quiet, cold sensation settles in your chest. Your brain instantly starts running the math you wish you hadn't calculated. If I had just invested $100 a month when I was 18, I would already be sitting on a foundation that works for me while I sleep. You sit with that thought for longer than feels comfortable. Not because you had $100 a month at 18. You didn't. You were figuring out who you were, paying for textbooks, or spending money on things you don't even remember buying today. But because the screen in front of you is stating an uncomfortable, undeniable truth: time was the ultimate financial asset, and you feel like you spent your best years at the starting line without ever tying your shoes. This is not a story about giving up because you started late. This is a story about the hidden math of starting at 25. Why an adult's earning power changes the equation entirely, and what happens when you stop mourning lost time and start deploying actual capital. Your journey begins when you decide that 26 isn't the end, but the optimal foundation for the next chapter. It requires a fundamental shift in perception, moving from the guilt of wasted years to the strategic execution of current assets. You are about to unlearn the lessons of the internet finance bubble and learn the reality of capital velocity. We must first dismantle the illusion of the teen investor so you can see the truth of your own potential. You are comparing yourself to a statistical anomaly, a financial ghost stories designed to make you panic. You cannot change the start, but you can change the intensity. You cannot multiply time, but you can multiply income. This midnight calculator session isn't a wake-up call to look backward. It's the strategic planning session for everything that comes next. Let the realization of lost time settle, but immediately convert that energy into a relentless focus on capital generation. The foundation you build now, starting at 26, can become more robust and impactful than the ones started earlier. You have maturity, experience, and the capacity to execute a higher-level strategy. These are your new financial assets. This journey is not about catching up. It's about optimizing the game from this moment forward. Breathe in. The anxiety stops here. The strategizing begins now. By the time we finish this analysis, you won't feel late. You'll feel prepared. Let's move from guilt to mathematics. Let's talk about capital velocity. It starts with a mathematical illusion that almost everyone in their 20s falls for. The financial internet loves to celebrate the 18-year-old investor. They print the compound interest charts that assume an 18-year-old can consistently invest money for 40 years without interruption. But they leave out the most critical variable in the equation: capital velocity. Consider two people sitting in the exact same economic system. Person A is 18 years old. They have time, but they have zero leverage. They scrape together $30 a month. After 8 years of relentless discipline, by age 26, at an 8% average return, they have accumulated approximately $4,100. Person B is you. You are 26 years old. You spent your early 20s acquiring a degree, building a skill set. You have $0 in a brokerage account today, but because you are 26, you hold a tool the 18-year-old does not have: the ability to generate a surplus. If you decide to deploy $400 a month into that exact same market, you cross Person A's 8-year head start in less than 10 months. That is the unexamined reality of starting at 25 plus. Time expands money, but income scales it. The 18-year-old has a head start in years, but you have the ammunition of a functional adult. Capital velocity is not about the compound interest multiplier. It is about the initial sum of the compound interest multiplier. You can achieve more financial momentum in 1 year at 26 with a $500 monthly investment than an 18-year-old can achieve in 7 years at $30. Maturity provides the capacity for a much higher investment allocation. The time multiplier is powerful, but it's linear. Your income generation potential is exponential. This is why your late start isn't fatal. It's just a different mode of operation. The secret to closing the gap is maximizing the initial thrust of your capital launch. You are not looking for slow accumulation. You are looking for compressed scaling, and the most dynamic force you can apply to that scaling is a relentless increase in income. The 18-year-old can save $30. At 26, you can choose to make an extra $500 a month with your professional skills. Your immediate priority is increasing the surplus that feeds your capital launch vehicle. This is not about frugality. This is about acceleration. The mathematics of wealth generation must be prioritized. When you shift your goal from catching up to generating maximum momentum, the arithmetic of your late start looks fundamentally different. You stop mourning time and start deploying ammunition. Now, let's address the unexamined middle, where most 20s waste their capital launch capability. Maturity allows for much stronger choices. Let's explore those options. Shift the perspective. Maximize surplus now. Mathematics of generation are prioritized. Deploy maximum thrust. Guilt stops now. The strategic application of income must begin. The hardest part of starting at 26 is not the mathematics. It is opting out of the performance. There is a specific, quiet cultural pressure in your mid to late 20s. It is the pressure to look like your career is moving. The apartment that signals you've arrived. The car lease that suggests you aren't struggling. When you decide at 26 to catch up, you have to quietly decline that performance. You keep driving the car you paid off years ago. You stay in the apartment that costs $400 less per month. When you look at an extra $300 spent on something you didn't need, you see $300 compounding at 8% over 30 years, which is over $3,000 of future freedom. By month 10, something subtle shifts in your head. The tightness in your chest doesn't turn into luxury, it turns into clarity. The low-grade anxiety of living paycheck to paycheck goes quiet, not because you suddenly became rich, but because you built margin. This margin is your ammunition. This is the difference between surviving your 20s and engineering your wealth. Opting out of the performance means opting into the mathematics of freedom. The unexamined middle is where most people burn their highest surplus potential on consumer theater. Guilt stops right here. The strategic application of your income must begin. Shift your perspective. Stop dwelling on lost time and focus entirely on maximizing your current surplus. Every dollar not spent on status symbol lifestyle becomes a soldier fighting for your future independence. Prioritize the mathematics of wealth generation over the aesthetics of looking successful. When you strip away unnecessary expenses, you discover how much financial leverage you actually possess. Your immediate priority is increasing the monthly cash flow that feeds your capital launch vehicle. Frugality isn't restriction. It's acceleration. Combine intentional spending with your expanding skill set. The goal isn't just saving pennies. It is scaling your overall wealth generation mathematically. You are taking control. The noise of peer comparison fades when you have a concrete execution plan. This journey is not about catching up. It's about optimizing the game from this exact moment forward. Breathe in. The comparison anxiety stops here. The strategizing begins now. Maximize your momentum using cold, hard numbers. Treat your skills and focus as your greatest assets. Commit to the mathematics of freedom. Discipline today builds unshakable peace tomorrow. Every intentional choice builds momentum. Your financial foundation is strengthening day by day. Maturity enables robust choices. You are no longer living for approval, but for real security. Keep your focus sharp and your system simple. Small consistent gains compound into massive life changes. When you prioritize true wealth over temporary status, time becomes your biggest ally once again. The foundation is laid. Now, it is time to execute the long-term wealth strategy step by step. You are no longer playing catch up. You are playing a completely different game. To bridge the gap between 25 and 65 without falling into panic, you need a system that respects both your reality and the math. First, focus on skill leverage over extreme frugality. You cannot cut for dollars lattes your way to $1 million if your income is capped. The highest ROI decision a 25-year-old can make is spending 5 hours a week mastering a high-leverage skill that market values. Second, deploy the compressed allocation rule. Because you are starting with less runway, your investable surplus must be split strategically. 60% goes directly into broad market index funds, the low-cost, boring engines where your money works quietly over time. 20% goes into a cash shield, a high-yield savings account holding 3 to 6 months of living expenses for total security. Third, mute the desperation traps. The biggest danger for a late starter is the urge to gamble on high-risk shortcuts. Gambling isn't catch-up. It's a trap designed to reset your hard-earned progress back to zero. Maturity allows for much stronger, rational choices. Let's explore how this framework transforms your trajectory. When you optimize your skill set, your primary earning power scales faster than inflation ever could. This income expansion is the fuel that powers your entire wealth creation machinery. The remaining 20% of your surplus gets reinvested directly into your own education and tools. By constantly upgrading your knowledge, you guarantee that your earning potential keeps compounding. You build a feedback loop. Higher skills lead to higher income, which leads to larger investment capital. This systematic expansion replaces guesswork with predictable, compounding progress. You stop stressing over temporary market volatility because your cash shield protects your daily life. Index funds do the heavy lifting in the background, compounding wealth without requiring constant management. Ignoring speculative hype protects your capital from catastrophic drawdowns that set late starters back years. Automation eliminates emotional decision-making, ensuring consistent execution month after month. Consistency becomes your primary edge. What used to feel like a delay becomes an organized execution. Every quarter, you review your allocation and adjust your skill goals to match market demand. The feeling of urgency transforms into a focused momentum driven by clear financial targets. You realize that catching up is not about taking huge risks, but about committing to flawless fundamentals. When these three pillars align, your financial trajectory shifts permanently upward. Your 20s cease to be a source of regret and become the solid foundation of your wealth. The framework is now active. The math is working silently in your favor every single day. Chaos gives way to structure. You are no longer reacting to life, you are engineering it. Clarity brings peace of mind, allowing you to focus entirely on execution without emotional drag. With the three-step framework in place, the path forward becomes clear, measurable, and achievable. Now, let's step into the final chapter to see how this system compounds over the long haul. Imagine looking at your portfolio 6 years from now. At age 32, you didn't do anything heroic. Your account reads a number, maybe $100,000, maybe $150,000. It isn't a retirement number yet. No one walking past you on the street would ever guess that number is attached to your name. But if you close the app and leave that number alone, that baseline turns into millions by the time you reach 62. That is what a few years of intentionality in your mid-20s buys you. 30 years of silence, where math does the heavy lifting. You are not late. You were just building the foundation required to play the game with real ammunition. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is before you close this tab. Guilt stops right here. The regret of lost time is officially replaced by the precision of strategic execution. Opt into the cold, predictable logic of compounding. Let your daily anxiety dissolve into calculated action. Every dollar allocated today is a step away from financial stress and a vote for your future independence. You no longer measure success by public validation, but by the quiet expansion of your net worth. Knowledge upgrades your earning power, while patience converts that earning power into lasting freedom. The habits you build in this season will carry you through every market cycle for the rest of your life. While others chase temporary trends, you remain anchored in a long-term mathematical reality. Growth takes time, but once the roots are deep enough, the compounding effect becomes unstoppable. Financial peace is not about having everything right now. It's knowing that your future is fully secured. Trust the system you've built. Let the consistency of small actions compound into massive long-term results. Your 20s were meant for learning the rules of the game. Your 30s and beyond are where you win it. Take a deep breath. You've stopped comparison, embraced the math, and taken control of your destiny. The system is active. The silence has begun. Welcome to your financial freedom.